Hello, this is Mr. Chance, and in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about the background for the Song of Hiawatha, which my high school students for the varieties of writing class that I'm teaching or facilitating rather are going to be reading, right? My students are reading the Song of Hiawatha. And so I wanted to talk about it a little bit to try to explain why I wanted to use the Song of Hiawatha for the text for the class, other than the reason being that I like the Song of Hiawatha. It's not just that. So first we need to understand what the Song of Hiawatha is. It was written by Henry W. Longfellow. It was published in 1855, and it is a legendary saga, is its genre. So it is, excuse me, it's a heroic narrative that blends myth and history. Myth and history. Longfellow's immediate inspirations for the Song of Hiawatha were the legendary and the historical sagas of Scandinavia, specifically this one. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce that. My Scandinavian's not very good, but this is where he gets the meter that the Song of Hiawatha uses, the alliterative way in which it is written. This is his immediate inspiration. So then the question becomes, though, why did Longfellow write this? Why is the Song of Hiawatha? Right? We know what it is, but why is it? And this, I think, is an important question for us to understand, that we need to put the Song of Hiawatha in its historical context. Right. So first off, I take a nod from G.K. Chesterton here. G.K. Chesterton observed that the United States of America is the only nation founded on a creed. And the creed that the United States of America is founded on is the Declaration of Independence. And Longfellow, I believe, though, I mean, obviously he and Chesterton are not contemporaries, but I don't think Longfellow would find this idea of Chesterton's all that astonishing. Longfellow himself understands that in 1855, when he's publishing the Song of Hiawatha, that the United States is a young nation. And it is a nation with a creed. And the Declaration of Independence is grounded in an explicit acknowledgement that there is a creator. And this creator has given us a human nature. It is not of our own making. It has a divine origin. And the Declaration of Independence also implicitly acknowledges the role of divine providence in the foundation of the United States. So we have this idea in the Song of Hiawatha that we'll see, and that there is a certain inevitability to the United States, that to a certain extent the United States is God's will. All right. Now, understanding that the United States is a young nation, especially in 1855, especially in 1807 when Longfellow was born, the United States doesn't have a literature or a literary history of its own. At the time Longfellow was writing, the United States' literary history is only it's being created, and Longfellow and other writers like him, Nathaniel Hawthorne, Melville, and so on, want the United States to be taken seriously as an intellectual power, not just a world power. And any nation, any people that is going to be taken seriously needs to have a founding epic or a national saga. And the United States doesn't have one. So Longfellow is going to write one for us. This is perhaps a bit egotistical, on Longfellow's part. But Longfellow is looking at events in the United States that have occurred during his lifetime up until 1855, and he's noticing a trend towards destructive disunity, especially over the issue of slavery. Which we'll get to in a little bit. So to give you some examples of things that are weighing on the public mind in 1855, to one extent or another. Oops, I have two Roman numeral threes there. Let me get rid of one of those. Thank you. Anyways, the early to mid 1800s are a time of increasing political and social turmoil in the United States. Immigration is increasing again, especially from Catholic Ireland and Scandinavia. The Irish, by and large, don't fit in well in the United States at this period, specifically because they are Catholic. And Catholicism is by and large viewed in predominantly Protestant America as an alien faith. A faith that encourages its adherents to swear allegiance to the Pope and to all things popish, to the detriment of the country that they live in. And Scandinavians aren't necessarily Catholic, but there is a language barrier there as well. The Scandinavian immigrants, by and large, are not coming in speaking English. And so there's a difficulty for the assimilation in that regard. We have, during this period of time, we have the Compromise of 1850, which in some ways limits slavery, but at the same time legitimates the expansion of slavery into new states and territories that are being formed. And hand in hand with the Compromise of 1850 is the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. Which explicitly states that an escaped slave who has managed to find his or her way into a free territory or a free state is still property. They have not gained their freedom by the act of escaping across certain boundaries. California becomes a state during this period in time, thus ending the westward expansion of the United States across the continent. Utah and New Mexico have become territories, which, among other questions, raises the issue of what to do with Native American populations in those territories. Some Native American populations have been there for centuries, and others had been relocated there by previous westward expansions. You have in Indiana, at the Indiana Constitutional Convention, you have Edward Ralph May arguing for African American suffrage. And Harriet Tubman, at some point in time during this period, begins her brave work as a conductor on the Underground Railroad. And this isn't, generally speaking, publicly known. She's very much a spy and a secret agent sort, but this is going on, and it's become even more pressing in light of the Fugitive Slave Act, that it is now not enough to help escaping slaves make it into free territories. Abolitionists now have to help escaping slaves get all the way to Canada, for example, where the Fugitive Slave Act does not apply. So there's a lot going on in the country at this time, and now I need to clear this away because I've run out of room. So there we go. I've cleared that away, and so now we need to look a little bit at Longfellow himself. I always hesitate to put too much stock in the biography of an author as a way to interpret that author's works. There are limitations to that, but I think understanding a little bit of Longfellow is probably a good idea. As I mentioned, he was born in 1807. This is about two decades, after the United States wins its independence, and about 5 years before the United States sort of wins its independence again by fighting the War of 1812, basically to a stalemate. Longfellow's ancestors, however, have been in New England since the 1600s. So while Longfellow is in some ways a first generation citizen of the new nation of the United States, he has deep roots in North America. And growing up as a child, he grew up being taught and loving stories of adventures of heroes. His mother, for example, made him read Robinson Crusoe and Don Quixote. Longfellow was the first American to translate the Iliad into English. Other people had translated it into English before him, obviously, but he was the first American to do so. And by the 1840s, Longfellow is publicly known to be an abolitionist. Longfellow seems to have had a sense that the growing disunity over the issue of slavery especially threatened the continued life of the United States of America. And this issue of disunity leading to destruction of a people, as we will see, shows up very early in the Song of Hiawatha. So in part, what Longfellow is wanting to do here is establish the Song of Hiawatha, at least in the minds of some, as the American national epic, our national saga, and by this give us a source of identity as a people in a way that, for example, the Aeneid was meant to give the Romans a source of identity as a people, or the Scandinavian sagas gave those people a sense of history and a sense of identity as well. So it's a somewhat ambitious project that Longfellow has set himself out for, and it is commendable in many respects. But there are also some problematic elements to the Song of Hiawatha, which we will examine as we go along. Also. In any event, I hope this helps answer the question about why I have picked what most people seem to think is an obscure work of American literature that no one reads anymore, other than I like it. That's a good reason, I think, for me to read it, but not necessarily a good reason for me to require other people to read it. I think the Song of Hiawatha has some important things to say about virtue and about what it means to be a people who are concerned with justice. So in that sense, I think the Song of Hiawatha is timeless. In any event, that's it for this video. So I'm going to sign off now as soon as I find the button that lets me stop recording. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Bye-bye.